ag law. Medical choice for veterans, essential. Schedule I drugs that they otherwise could be using as medical drugs through the VA, they don't have access to today. They're turning to fentanyl and worse. And so the way I think about this is they shouldn't have to drive 150 miles to get to the nearest VA. They should be able to get community-based medical care right where they are. I come from the private sector. In public companies in corporate America, you know who sets the pay of the CEO? The shareholders do. They decide who's hired and fired. I will restructure the VA to treat the veterans as the shareholders of the VA. Actually make the VA accountable to the people they're supposed to serve, not a bunch of migrants that are flooding that southern border. Once you affect people's pay and whether or not they keep their job or not, that's how you get that done. So that's part of standing for veterans. And by the way, anybody's military pay and anybody's veterans benefits will no longer be subject to federal taxation. I think that that's a base principle across the board. It doesn't make any sense otherwise. Now, how do we solve that deeper crisis of national pride? My young people today were lost. I say we in some sense. I'm 38 years old. I'm the youngest person ever to run for U.S. president as a Republican. And I think what's going on in our generation is something deeper. We are lost. We are hungry for a cause. We're starved for purpose and meaning and identity. At a time in our history when the things that used to fill that void, faith in God, patriotism, hard work, family, these things have disappeared in this country. And when you have a vacuum that runs that deep, a void that runs that deep, that is when the poison fills the void. It almost doesn't matter what exactly the poison is, actually. You pick your favorite one. Sometimes we obsess over it too much as Republicans. Wokeism, transgenderism, climatism, COVIDism, depression, anxiety, fentanyl, suicide. These are symptoms of a deeper void of purpose and meaning in our country. And I see a Republican Party that, frankly, we can criticize the other side till we're blue in the face, right? We all agree on that. Let me talk about our own party. I see a Republican Party that has grown lazy, actually. I don't mean lazy in the get out the vote operation sense of lazy. I mean lazy in a deeper sense of defining who we are and what we actually stand for. The left is good at this. They will give you a vision. It's not the right vision, but they'll give you something. Race, gender, sexuality, climate. And we've grown lazy sitting here just criticizing that vision without offering a vision of our own. What do we actually stand for? Individual, family, nation, God. That beats race, gender, sexuality, and climate if we have the courage to actually stand for something. So we can't anymore just be running from something. I am in this race to lead us to something. To our vision of what it means to be a Republican in the year 2024. What does it mean to be an American in the year 2024? And to me, it means we believe in the ideals of 1776. The ideals that the Founding Fathers enshrined in our Declaration of Independence, in our Constitution, that all men are created equal. That we, the people, create a government that is accountable to us, not the other way around. That the people who we elect to run the government ought to be the ones who actually run the government. That we're founded on the rule of law. And I say this as the kid of legal immigrants to this country. That means your first act of entering this country cannot break the law. That's why I've said we'll use our military to seal the borders. We got to tie it to the why. We can't just be playing whack-a-mole anymore. Biden bad is not an agenda. That's why we had the red wave that never came. We have to actually have the courage and the spine and conviction to say this is what we stand for. That's what America First is all about. It stands for the idea that people we elect to run the government ought to run the government, and the moral duty they owe is to the citizens of this nation. See a gentleman serve with an army. Did you serve in the army, sir, yourself? Thank you for your service. Every one of you as a veteran deserves to press your next commander-in-chief on this set of questions. Thank you for your service to this country. And I think that One of the things we have failed to do in this country, in the foreign policy establishment of the last 25 years in both parties, is actually to protect our own homeland. Young people are scared. I hate to say this, because they're not stupid. What happened on October 7th in Israel was a failure of border security. If that can happen in Israel, that can happen right here in the United States. And it's happening as we speak. It's a matter of time until we have a president who's really willing to execute mass deportations and actually using the military to seal the border. So what I'll say is this: I have a radical vision for the use of our own military, and I think this will revive that sense of pride and purpose amongst young people to serve again. We're going to use our military and our national defense spending foremost to defend our homeland, to protect Americans who are right here, more vulnerable than we've ever been, to a border invasion at our southern border. That is what it is. You're not supposed to say it that way. It is an invasion. To protecting against cyber attacks, to super EMP, electromagnetic pulse attacks, that could take out our electric grid in a matter of days. We're more vulnerable than we've ever been, and we deserve a commander-in-chief who actually defends our own citizens. And I think that is an appropriate use of our own national defense spending and our own military. And I think that's how we bring back that sense of purpose and that sense of self-confidence to overcome what's become a culture of fear.
Yeah, we need to replace embarrassment with pride.
That's right.
Just like we had on September 2nd. September 12th.
2001.
You know, we all went out and got flags, and we couldn't buy them, and you couldn't find them anymore. Mm-hmm. And now no one flies flags, and everybody's negative, and everybody's depressed, and it's time to get back to some freaking pride and leading instead of tucking tail.
I love the way you said that. And there's more to this life than the aimless passage of time. Right? We're taught that our diversity is our strength. That's part of the problem in this country. We've been celebrating our diversity and our differences so much that we forgot all of the ways that we are the same as Americans, bound by that common set of ideals in this country. Each part of this unit means from many, one. See, our diversity can be a beautiful thing. It can be. But it's meaningless unless there's something greater that unites us across that diversity. Without that, we're really just a different looking group of two-legged higher mammals, right? Walking some geographic space that we call a country, doing what our iPhones tell us to do on a given day. That's what I see in the country at times today. 60% of young Americans say they would sooner give up their right to vote than to give up their access to TikTok. I mean, it sounds like a snarky observation. It's just a fact. It's where we are today. That doesn't work. So I mean, in terms of policy, I have some ideas on this. I think every high school senior who graduates from high school should have to pass the same civics test that every immigrant has to pass in order to become a voting citizen of this country. You got to have skin in the game to play in the game. Young people don't value a country we just passively inherit. We value a country we have a stake in building, in creating, in knowing something about. But half of this is going to be reviving national character, actually. We talk about our founding fathers. We got to remember the founding spirit of this country. Thomas Jefferson, 33, I told you, when he wrote the Declaration of Independence. He invented the swivel chair while he was at it. Benjamin Franklin, co-signer of that document, invented the bifocal spectacle. He actually was an inventor of the Franklin stove, the first lightning rod we got in this country. Amazing. This is Benjamin Franklin. Robert Livingston. He's actually Wallen ambassador to France. He was also a co-signer of the Declaration of Independence. He invented one of the main components of the steamship, the steamboat. And these guys there was something in the water back then in 1776. That's that founding spirit we need to revive. It's as though our inner animal spirit, this is kind of the core of your question, it's about the soul of this country. Our inner animal, it has been domesticated, it has been whipped, it has been tamed into submission by this new culture that penalizes excellence and celebrates victimhood. That's what we teach our kids, to be victims. We need to teach them to be victorious. That's what it means to be American. When we rallied behind the cry to make America great again, we didn't just hunger for one man. We hungered for the unapologetic pursuit of excellence. This is what it means to be an American. Unleash our inner beast. It has left oceans to lift up places like China, while their culture of victimhood holds us back. Not anymore. And I think it is going to take somebody with fresh legs. Somebody from the next generation to reach and lead that new generation. So if you all put us in that position, Apoorv and I, we view that as our responsibility to make faith and family and patriotism and hard work cool again in this country. And I think that that's half the job of the next president. It's not just policy. The other half of the job is reviving our national character, answering who we are. To put America first, we need to rediscover what America is. Do that in the best days of I'll say this in close. You get the little man under control there? You just run around. I'll tell you, I don't know how much Apoorv or Esther told you about her background. Apoorv's, she's gonna be a badass first lady, I'll tell you that. She's saving lives every day, but we've got 2 young boys, one's 3.5, one's 1.5 years. We're not doing this out of convenience. We're doing this out of our sense of duty to this country. My parents came to this country 40 years ago with no money in search of opportunity. I've gone on to found multiple multi-billion-dollar companies. Apoorv's parents, very similar story. She's one of the best in the country at what she does, saving the lives of cancer survivors with throat surgery at the Ohio State Hospital. This is about saving the life of our country. I think this is our moment to do it. If our boys are in high school before we get this right, I don't think we have a country left. That's where we are. But I think that this is at the same time our moment to get this right. And if we do, we don't have to anymore be this nation in decline. We don't have to be, to your question earlier, we don't have to be at the end of the ancient Roman Empire. I think what George Washington would say, if he were alive today, if he were walking the American landscape, what would he tell us? I think he would say that as a nation right now, we are really just a little young, actually. Going through our own version of our adolescence. Figuring out who we're going to be when we grow up. I'm not going to be the guy who comes in here and tells you it's morning in America. I love Ronald Reagan. But I don't think Reagan would tell us that if he were alive today, because it's not morning in America. But it can be. I won't tell you what the political consultants advise us to say. The American dream is alive and well. It's not right now. It's alive and hanging on for life support. That's where we are. But it can be. And we're asking you to do your part to make it so. Every one of your votes at that Iowa caucus, it's like the equivalent of 1 million people in the impact it has on selecting the next president. So we're asking you, every one of you, to take 30 minutes of your time to save this country on January 15th. And I'm asking you for a little bit more than that. In the 2 weeks between now and next Monday, week from Monday, I'm asking you to tell 100 people, tell 10 people in this community who couldn't be here today about what we're talking about here too. Bring them to that Iowa caucus. And if you guys do your part, I'll tell you, the system isn't made for a guy like me to do this. A family like